Warning: this podcast may contain graphic and triggering content. Please listen at your own risk. Each individual struggle is different, and everyone's recovery and healing journey is different. Please reach out to a certified medical professional if you need help. Welcome to episode 15 of Stomp the Stigma, the podcast aimed to fight the stigma surrounding mental health through education, awareness, experiences, stories, resources, and the vulnerable truth. This week's episode is part 2 of my conversation with Holly McCorriston. If you didn't listen to part 1, go back and listen to episode 14. Otherwise, enjoy our conversation on mental fitness and mental health. So with your perspective on mental illness, I don't know how to phrase that. With your belief that mental illness is not, well, you don't like the label of a mental illness.
Yeah, I don't love that we call it mental illness and disease. And I'm like, what if it wasn't? What if it's really just a dysregulated nervous system?
Yeah. So
that nobody knows how to manage.
How do you look at your own kind of journey with anxiety and depression and...
Well, I mean, there's states that I experienced and got stuck in.
Yeah.
And maybe I was sick at the time, but it's another one of those things where sometimes on the identity level, like if I had gone to a doctor and a doctor had said, oh yes, absolutely, you're depressed and you're anxious, and given me those titles to hang on to, I feel that would have been really limiting. And I do feel it limits a lot of people. Yeah. Because then I can't because of my anxiety, my depression.
Right. And everyone's experiences are so different. Mm-hmm. Even under, I guess, the same label that you would give multiple people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I've got there's another doctor, he's actually Canadian, his name's Dr. Russell Kennedy. Mm-hmm. So he wrote a book called The Anxietyrx, because of his own experience with his anxiety, mm-hmm. or like his experience with it. So I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's I don't think it's a disease.
Right.
I think it's just a signal in the body that we're ignoring. So, and this is the thing with, even with anxiety, if you can sit with it and stay with it instead of letting the story in your head exacerbate the alarm in your body, then it actually does resolve. And I do this with my coaching clients. We often will take the negative emotion, whether it's frustration, resentment, anxiety, whatever. And there's a couple different exercises. One of them is a state line. So you literally you get people to stand up and stand in the middle of this imaginary line and move one way or the other. So it's like, okay, if you're 10 out of 10 anxiety here, what happens when you walk away from it? And walk away from it. And they'll actually be like, oh, well, I'm getting lighter, like things are letting go. So that's the somatics of it.
I like that.
Because you're actually moving your body. And then it also shows people they can shift. They don't need a pill. Yeah. They don't need to run away. They don't need to give in to the, because, and it's just like, well, what is it? What are the sensations? Like, let's get into the physiologic sensation of it rather than the story in your head of I'm going to die or I'm going to throw up or I'm going to whatever. Because it just, mm-hmm. again, they trigger each other. And the same thing kind of like I was probably, again, if I look back on it, I was always depressed as a kid. I had moments for sure, and this is also the thing. When you say you're depressed, it's not 24/7.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Exactly.
There are still moments of joy and whatever, but they're fleeting and they're hard to hang on to and you don't remember them. Mm-hmm. Or you may not. So again, it's kind of a story. Because I work with a therapist and we work with somatics, a lot of it's just stuck energy. Like an emotion is energy in motion. So when you have all these great big emotions in your body as a kid and your parents don't have the ability to hold space for them, or you're told you're too much, you're too big, you're too loud, whatever, stop crying. You just learn to shut them down and they get stuck in your body. Mm-hmm. And eventually they show up as physical symptoms. Again, right before I left pharmacy, I had one of my really good patients. He'd been diagnosed with heart failure. So I asked him, I'm like,
wow.
how angry are you? And he's like, honey, I've been driving construction, like gravel truck through construction for the last 2 years. How angry do you think I am? And this is the thing, like our emotions affect our body systems. So and I do truly believe this is why men especially are often afflicted with heart conditions, because they carry a lot of anger.
Wow.
And sometimes they express it, but do they express it fully, and are they expressing it in an appropriate way?
Yeah.
And do they even realize that it's probably from when they were 4 and, didn't get that toy at McDonald's and wanted to throw a tantrum and weren't allowed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like, let it out, scream,
Yeah.
cry, yell, stomp your feet, whatever, transmute the energy, lots of like sounds, like letting it out, just like humming, calming down the vagus nerve too, because if you're in constant state of like alarm, that polyvagal theory is fascinating. So I think it's very cool that there's so many practitioners and resources now that are like, yeah, I don't think we're doing this right. I think we need to reevaluate things a lot. Because I think if people were aware, I think if more people were aware that they could regulate their own nervous system and calm themselves down and get themselves out of these hijacks, and they didn't need to wait 2 years for like a psychologist to assess them.
Yeah.
I think the world would be a lot different.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
And again, if it started in kindergarten with these tools, you wouldn't need to wait until you're 25 or 30 or whatever to, again, I listened to your podcast. You're like, yeah, I went to the psychologist and whatever. And then I lied to them because I told them what they wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. And then nobody questioned it. And I just kept faking it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, when you're living with something like that, a big part of it is, well, at least when I was younger, because there's so much stigma around it, a big part of it was just hiding it from people so that they wouldn't know, because then they would like think less of you or look down on you. And so you hide that side of yourself, and yeah, it just became a part of life, and you just kind of automatically do it.
Yeah, and you don't know any different. That's the thing about unconscious, subconscious patterns and pushing things down.
Yeah.
Is you don't even know they're doing them.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so now that I'm an adult, like I'm still learning how to not suppress everything and all the emotions and everything.
Yeah. I'm part of this meditation group, and we talk about this kind of stuff a lot, and how your own vulnerability can feel really uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But in being able to push through your own discomfort to share, like, hey, I need help, or I need someone to listen to me, or I need someone to talk to, or can I share this with you? You may, in a way, actually be doing a service to the person that could be listening. Mm-hmm. Or because people, I think, innately do all want to help. They just don't know how. or again, it's like if we wait until we're so full of pain and energy that we blow up, of course people don't know how to hold space for that.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like when there's no permission, there's no process, there's, they're in the middle of something, which is why I think also a lot of relationships break down, because it's like, we don't actually create intentional space to like communicate with each other. Yeah, I know a lot of things. I was like, I just feel like I've talked your ear off.
So now that you've done all this work on yourself and you're kind of in this completely different mindset or point in your life, do you still get like feelings of anxiety and depression, or is that something that you've kind of, I don't know if you call it like recovered from? I
definitely still have a lot of energy stuck in my body, which comes out as what some people may call anxiety. So in my language of positive intelligence, I have what's called a restless saboteur. And the restless saboteur is the one that likes to keep busy and doing things and whatnot. So I notice when my experience of anxiety comes in, I get lots of like, it almost feels like fire underneath my skin. It's just really tingly and prickly, and it feels like I just need to move. Oh, so again, the physiologic sensation would just be to move my body. And then the brain comes in and tries to protect that. And it's like, okay, we're going to do this thing, and we're going to do that thing, and we're going to read that book, and we're going to, and then you're like, so my awareness of it now is like, okay, can I just like stay with the buzzing? Can I stay with the fire and just like shake it out, move it, whatever? I mean, so absolutely. This is one of the things is that these experiences never go away because they're signals.
Right.
But when the signal comes in, I know how to be more aware of it and what to do with it, which doesn't mean I do it perfectly, and it doesn't mean I do it all the time. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be perfect. And I think that there's a lot of value in sharing that too, because I don't think anybody is ever on the other side. I think it's always a process. Like, it's a practice. It's a mental fitness practice. You're always strengthening and changing your neural pathways so that you can respond more appropriately in the moment, rather than going back to the pattern of reaction, which would be like busy, or trying to control the situation, or any of those patterns that just come in and try and protect you.
Right.
So.
Right. Wow.
And and the urge to run away, that's a big one too.
Yeah.
You know, when something happens that's like out of my control or I don't like it, I'm just like, I instantly become 3. And I'm like, fine, going to my room. And it's like, but I have that awareness of like, ooh, my inner 3-year-old is throwing a temper tantrum, and can I, as the adult, like, not let that part of me take me over? Can I hold space for the part that wants to throw a temper tantrum and be like, oh, there's part of me that was really hurt by being disregarded or whatever, and not disregard that part anymore, and also like get out of the story in my head that, you know, my partner doesn't care about me or my family doesn't care about me or whatever.
I like that a lot. I like the idea of just holding space for your emotions and your feelings, and I've never really thought about that before, but I like that.
Yeah, just about any time you're being irrational and not making sense, it's not you. It's a much younger part of you that just didn't get the attention it needed when it needed it, and it's trying to get your attention now. So if you just actually give it, then again, it lets that energy move, and then that emotion's no longer stuck, and then it may not even be a trigger anymore. You're no longer going to have 3-year-old temper tantrums because they've been processed.
Wow. I like that. So, okay, so you're a mental fitness trainer. I've never heard of mental fitness before, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat. Can you just like explain what that is or what that means?
Yeah, it's literally just a practice of training your own brain to change itself. The definition that positive intelligence uses is that it's really a measure of how quickly you can shift from a negative to positive emotion, like in a moment of stress or a circumstance. So when your mental muscle, if you think of it this way, if you go to the gym and you walk into the gym, you probably, especially if you've never been to the gym before, you probably can't like walk over to the squat rack and like deadlift 400 pounds. You just probably can't do that.
Yeah.
So when you go to the gym, you have to go in and pick up something that you know you can lift, and you have to do it over and over and over again to build your muscles up, and then you level up. You pick up something heavier. So with mental fitness, it's the same kind of idea. So you're starting with small things. Like, you're not, if you want to strangle your mother-in-law every time you see her, you don't start with that relationship. You start with, oh, I'm really annoyed by the dirty dishes in the sink, or, I hate when my kids don't pick up their toys, or whatever. You start with little things that you're probably judging. Like the first saboteur we always work on is the judge. Everybody has a judge. The judge is always either judging yourself, other people, or your circumstances all the time, 24/7. It's the little inner critic.
Yeah.
So it's the voice that, like, when you're walking down the street that says, oh, that guy parked like a jerk. But it's not really your business how that guy parked. Are you going to do anything about it?
Yeah.
It's kind of that. So then you're just like, oh, I noticed that my judge is judging that guy's park job, and I can just go, I can windshield wipe it away, or I can just go, that's so interesting. That's so interesting I had that thought. Because your judge can also come in again and be like, you dickwad, why are you judging that guy's parking? And then it perpetuates the neural pathway that keeps going that direction. But if you just go, that's so interesting that I had that thought, and you bring yourself to your body, it might even be as simple as, oh, I notice my feet in my shoes. Like I'm going to wiggle my toes, and then I'm just going to keep walking, and I'm just going to let it go.
Wow.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over and over and over and over. So at the beginning of a mental fitness practice, if you're only doing that, if you're only noticing your thoughts, observing them, and then shifting to 100 times a day.
Oh, wow.
Which is only 15 minutes.
It sounds like a lot, but it's
not.
No,
it's not. And it's things you can incorporate into your everyday life. When you wake up in the morning, as soon as your brain kicks in and goes into hyperdrive of your to-do list, can you take 3 deep breaths and notice them? Can you feel your breath going in, your breath going out, breath going in? Can you notice the texture of the pillowcase against your ear? Can you hear the birds chirping and then get out of bed with a little bit quieter mind? Can you feel your feet on the floor as you walk to the bathroom? Can you really hear the sound of yourself going to the bathroom? All of those things, and just be really present with your day. But if people have never done it before, they've never heard it put this way. Because if you just go, oh, well, just be present in the moment, people are like, what does that even mean? I don't understand.
Well, yeah, exactly. People say that a lot, but people don't really know what that means.
So it's just one of those things where, okay, do a PQ rep is, right, I can rub my 2 fingers together with such focus and attention on the sensations that I can feel the fingertip ridges. And people love this one.
Oh, that is so crazy.
Yeah, so you're like, oh, my partner just came in and said something snotty, and I feel like saying something snotty back, but instead I'm going to just take a breath, rub my fingers together for a couple minutes, or not a couple minutes, but even a couple seconds, and I'm going to choose to respond differently. I'm going to choose to either ignore it, or I'm going to choose to say, hey, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that? I'm going to choose a different path. And if you're actually choosing a different pathway in your brain every time you do that, and the more you choose the new way, the less the old way will be the default.
It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's totally a practice. It's not something you do for a weekend or a couple months and then quit going. It's the same as if you go to the real gym and get your muscles all pumped up and then quit going, chances are they'll atrophy. So same thing. If you stop doing your mental fitness practices and you stop seeing the benefits of them, you'll go the way that you put your attention on.
Right.
So, and that's another big part of it is we teach the sage perspective versus the saboteur perspective. So if you're always focusing on the negative, you're going to notice the negative. You're going to see the patterns that go that way versus if you're looking for the good or the gift or the benefit or the potential gift in it, then that's what you'll find.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It seems so simple to do something like that, for 10 seconds and just kind of reset everything. That, it's almost okay, that's kind of too easy. How is that going to change my way of thinking? But it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and so Positive Intelligence, they do have an app. They have a program. You can go to their website. You can pay $1,000 to do it, or you can work with a coach that works with them. We have access to the app as well, and they have a program that where they have what's called a PQ gym where we do guided sessions of just those. We do, rub your 2 fingers together with such attention you can feel your fingertip ridges, and rubbing all of your fingers together with such attention, and the palms, and just getting into all those sensations, and then guiding, hearing, visual. I actually just put 2 videos up on YouTube yesterday that might be a good example for this. I did a 5-minute one and a 12-minute one, but I like to do mine with my coffee.
Oh.
So if you're drinking a coffee or a tea in the morning anyway, you can actually just spend a lot more attention and not necessarily time with it, but more attention. So it's holding the cup, feeling the sensation in your hands. I like to put it under my chin and feel the steam on my face, and then like move the cup away and notice the change in the temperature, and then like sip it, and it's like game changing. And it's also not meditation. You know, so you say the word meditation to some people and they're like, I don't do it. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people. I was absolutely one of those people. 23 years old, you know, super successful, high achieving student, whatever. And I was like, I can't do yoga. I can't meditate. My brain's too busy. That was the excuse.
Yeah.
Not realizing that like the intention of them is to slow your brain down.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, when they have that active mind, they think about meditation as being where you kind of like shut off your mind. And I think for a lot of people, including myself, that's something that I just like, I can't do. But when you change it into this kind of like paying attention to all the different details and like different senses and actually using your brain to focus on something in particular, then you slow down, but you're still using your brain without shutting it off. And I like that way of thinking about it instead.
Yeah, that's the self-command muscle. It's going, oh, I'm thinking about the guys parking, and now I'm noticing my feet. And now I'm not thinking about the parking. Now I'm just like, you have more capacity as well, because you're not attaching to every single thought, because you don't need to. Not every single thought is true or valid or necessary. Right. It's just there. And we say that, we're like, we don't expect your mind to shut down. Now, if I asked you the question, what's your next thought going to be?
Oh boy.
It shuts your brain right off.
Yeah.
Because you're putting your attention on it. It's like, what is my next thought going to be? And then as soon as you kind of shift your focus again, they'll probably start coming in.
Wow. Oh, that's crazy. But
it's out of your control. Yeah.
Wow. That was good. Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't credit that. I don't know who that was from, but.
Oh my God.
That's the other thing. Out of all the stuff that we say and all of the stuff we teach, like most of it's not really original. So I'm totally a culmination of, you know, Nicole LaPera and Shazad Shamin and all of the other coaches and trainers I've worked with, and I've, you know, and then my own experience, that it just comes out like this. So.
Yeah. How did you discover the concept of mental fitness in the first place?
Well, because I was a coach, Shazad Shamin, actually, so he's the founder, CEO of Positive Intelligence. He has actually created a multi-million-dollar coaching grant for coaches to take his $1,000 program for free. So because he believes in it so much that he believes that coaches require it, like it's the X factor in the coaching business, like I was saying, like I can get people great insight, but 3 months later, they're back to the way they were. And that's not what I want for people. Right. I want them to be able to do this work on their own and know that they don't need me, because that's what I didn't like about the healthcare system. Like, I don't want people to have to rely on something outside of themselves to feel better. I want them to have that inner wisdom, and they can trust themselves. So he did put out this multi-million-dollar coaching grant. I think I saw it posted on social media somewhere. And part of it as well is we have to go through it together as a group. So you can't go through it alone. You have to also invite 3 or 4 friends. So I invited several colleagues that I went to coaching school with. We went through it together last summer, and then the company had an invitation to purchase training from them and then get access to these resources for our own clients. And again, I thought it totally changed my perspective on how I was able to help people and what I would be able to help them with. And it's a lot more tangible, because I literally enroll people into this 6-week boot camp that has additional training that the company's already put together. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. And then with my clients, we still get together and we discuss the material. You know, we talk about what's going on with them, how this is affecting them, what kind of changes they need to make in their lives, what kind of changes they're already seeing. Because again, we're not very good mirrors for ourselves, because we have blind spots and that subconscious and unconscious, and we don't see things. So I do work with groups. So we actually get together in groups, and it's so beautiful. I didn't realize how beautiful it was going to be to just see people come together and support each other, and the vulnerability and the shares. again, like when people think they're the only ones that are having the struggles, and then they have the bravery to really speak up and share their experiences, it's so beneficial to the other participants because they maybe had experienced something similar, or they, even if they hadn't, now they have that, they've been exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, oh yeah, okay, maybe I haven't had that experience, but it's interesting to know what goes on in other people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
So to see them supporting each other and learning the material and growing together, and a lot of them have had, some really catastrophic things happen while we've been in the program together. So I think an instinct for a lot of people is just to quit, right? It's like, oh, well, how can I keep doing this training or this program or whatever? But I've really admired the way they continue to show up, because they know that, oh, this is actually what's this is what's going to get me through it.
Mm-hmm.
Not the way I was before. So it's been really great. And then, with my one-to-one clients, we do the boot camp together for the first 6 weeks, again, kind of reiterating the material and asking how it applies to them and what they're seeing in themselves and their growth. And then we continue, like there's more of an extended period. So it's like then building their confidence again in how they can apply these skills, tools, and abilities and like actually move forward.
Right.
So it's pretty good stuff.
So when you're working with clients and doing your mental fitness training and all of that, is it always one-on-one sessions with somebody, or what does that kind of look like?
Well, I work with both. I work with groups and I work one-on-one. So, so I do like a Zoom session Monday nights with my group, and then my one-to-one clients, I usually just get on the phone or Zoom with them, depending on what they're comfortable with. I have done some in-person work as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of the mental fitness training is done actually just on their own, because it's app-based. So there's a 1-hour video training to watch, and then they have prompts that come up throughout the day, like little 2-minute audio challenges and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then we're always encouraging people to get these PQ reps in, and then reflecting. So, I mean, it's work. This is the other thing. I mean, my program's called Be Your Own Hero, because I saw myself wanting someone else to come in and rescue me. I saw other people just waiting for permission. Yeah. These women not looking after themselves, putting everyone else before them. And again, the story that I had was, well, I should have no reason to be like this. I'm single, I've got a beautiful home and a nice job, and I get to travel. But I was putting my job ahead of me. I was putting my patients ahead of me. I was putting my family, like my sister and mom and those guys, like everybody. So, and you don't even realize you're doing it, because you're like, well, I'm just, who am I to state my needs or whatever. So we do a lot of work on that, learning how to say no and boundaries, and using what they're learning with the mental fitness, because it's all applicable. Mm-hmm. It's one system, so that you're not always like, oh, I need this book, or I need that book, or I need this doctor, or I need this process, or I need this, or I need that. It's like, no, you just need your own wisdom. Like, great, come back to yourself.
Do you work with just women, or are you open to everyone?
I was originally planning on working really with whoever needed help, but I have found, as a rule, women seem to be who were coming into my circle. Mm-hmm. So I do have a soft spot in my heart for women, because I am one, and I do have a lot of interest in healing, kind of like the mother-child type bonds as well. And I think women are going to change the world. So I think the more women are healed and looking after themselves and quit sacrificing themselves to everyone else around them, I think that's going to be game-changing in itself. Mm-hmm. There are lots of men doing this work. There are lots of men working with positive intelligence, like the CEO coach that's doing the whole program. He's a gentleman, and he works primarily with like business CEOs.
Oh, wow.
But they had such profound they were having such profound impact on the clients that that's one of the reasons too that they've got this grant extended out to other coaches, because they're like, this is like, it's life-changing.
Wow.
And the CEOs weren't seeing the biggest impact at work. They were seeing it at home with their wives and their children, and their own families, and how they started looking after themselves more, and all of those things. So yeah, so technically, like, I've and this is the thing too about small business and coaching, is because I'm only one person, we only have so much capacity. So I have narrowed it down to working with like professional entrepreneurial women that are secretly struggling with stress and anxiety, so that they can overcome the guilt and shame that's actually keeping them from being their own hero and looking after themselves.
I like that.
That's kind of the big culmination of all of it. And I'm playing with some of it too. So it's like, are they successful women? Because I'm like, I don't know if a lot of us, when we're struggling, think we're successful, even though maybe it looks like it to everyone else.
Right.
So it's hard to find the right language, but.
I know we kind of touched on it earlier, but about teaching these concepts in school and getting like children started earlier instead of trying to make up for everything later on. So you wouldn't do any work with like teenagers or younger people, would you?
I actually probably will be working with teenagers. Yeah. My hometown that I still have property in is struggling, for sure. And I know that because in my work as a pharmacist, I did lots of work in contraceptives. So I ended up with lots of young women private in my office. And we didn't talk about birth control. We talked about anxiety. So, I really see a place for this to come in earlier. The barrier that I see with the younger children often is how important it is for their parents to be doing this work.
Right.
Because I did see that dynamic in the pharmacy as well, where I would see parents come in, tell me their children were struggling, wanted some help for them, and then I would offer to get on the phone with the teenager, and the teenager would be a lot more honest with me, I think, than they were with their parent, because the parent was bringing the energy of, well, my child's the problem. My child needs to fix themselves, or my child needs help. And they weren't necessarily willing to look at their own lack of vulnerability or, take responsibility for what could potentially be, imperfect parenting, because nobody wants to be the imperfect parent. So I did have a family approach me and ask if I would work with their daughter. And I said the only way I would work with the daughter is if I worked with the whole family, and they declined in the end. So I do see definitely some value in maybe doing an after school program or something for these young women, because, and I mean, again, I went to school there. I know what it was like to go to school there. I knew what it was like to want to never have to go back there again, because lots of things. So, but yeah, I definitely think too, I don't know how healthy it is to put the responsibility of the change on the teen,
right,
or the child, without the parents, because the work we do, and you'll hear this probably from anyone that does a lot of personal development, is the work we do on ourselves is contagious, because then we're able to hold space. We're able to regulate our own emotions. And when we can stay regulated, it helps other people stay regulated. So a regulated parent is going to have a much more regulated child.
Right. Okay. Can you, for the listeners, can you give them like one little mental fitness tip or something that they can do to just kind of, I guess, experience a little bit of what your coaching can do for people?
The easiest thing would be to share my videos I just put up on YouTube, probably. Okay. But if somebody was looking for something they wanted to do just on their own, it's really just starting to notice. It's like, what am I experiencing? Am I feeling closed, constricted, frustrated, angry? Anything that just makes you feel kind of shut down or icky or anxious, or like you want to pull away from yourself, and just stop. Literally just be like, oh, Oh, and observe it. Just look at it, feel it, because that in itself shifts you over to that other part of your brain and your body that's much more wise. It's like, it's because you're getting curious about it instead of giving into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just noticing how often are you judging yourself, somebody else, what's going on. One question that I love too is, whose business is this? Is this my business,
Yes.
someone else's business, or the universe's business? Because if it's not yours, get out of it. And a big one is, other people's opinions are none of our business. And often our opinion is none of other people's business, but we give them away so freely.
Oh, that is true. That is very true.
So, and this is the thing, is in questioning your own thinking, it doesn't always have to be bad. Sometimes it can just be, is this useful? Is this helpful? What does saying this thing help?
Yeah.
What am I hoping to get out of this? And then it just slows things down. And then you can kind of windshield wipe things away. Like, oh, that actually doesn't matter. Oh, why was I bothered by that? Oh, that doesn't matter. Yeah, like I used to be the klutziest person in the world, and I would drop stuff all the time at work, and I'd get mad. When you drop something, you're like, idiot. So I just went to work one day and I was like, you know what? How can I change that? So when I dropped something, I was like, thank gravity. How awful would it be to be trying to count pills right now if they were floating around in space? And it totally changed everything.
Wow.
Because I got curious about it.
Yeah.
So can you be curious in the moment instead of anxious, frustrated, angry, whatever?
Oh, that's so interesting. Oh, I'm going to try this.
Yeah. Just get curious about everything. It's a sage emotion.
I love it. Wow. Okay. Do you have a name for your business? Or is it just...
I just use my name. It's just Holly McCorriston, coaching and mental fitness training right now. Just because it's beginning stages. My website is just hollymccorriston.com. And and then the program I run is Be Your Own Hero.
I like that name. Is your YouTube channel the same as well?
The YouTube channel is brand new. Probably the best place to find those videos right now is going to be just on my website. They'll be linked on there.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, under resources. So, yeah, and I think I have 5 mental fitness tips for stress and anxiety on my website that can be downloaded as well. So.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question that I like to ask everybody. Is there a stigma or misconception surrounding mental health that bothers you the most or that you hear most often but isn't true?
A stigma that bothers me that isn't true. I think the number one thing is just the lie that we tell ourselves that I'm the only one experiencing this.
Oh, that's huge.
And that's the lie of the judge. The judge is coming in. That saboteur, which again isn't you, it's just a program, it's just a pattern, just comes in and it says, I'm the only one experiencing this, I'm so alone. And then, why would I share it?
Yeah.
Brene Brown has a lot of work on that, on the shame and how can't survive the light. But I do a lot of work with guilt and shame with my clients. So.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that when I was younger. But I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that nobody else was talking about it. And so you never heard about other people struggling with the same things as you. And so then you do feel alone, even though you're not really.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, now that more people are talking about it, I love that we're talking about it, but I don't love that we're letting people stay in it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I love that this is like coaching and mental fitness is also all about moving forward.
Yeah.
It's fine if you have the feeling and it's fine if you experience it, but it's not okay if you stay in it.
Yeah. But you're also you also make the choice to let yourself stay in that position or in that kind of state of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and keeping in mind, the longer you let yourself stay in it, the more it reinforces the neural pathways that go that way.
Yeah.
So again, I think if people were equipped with that information, if they were like, oh, even if I just, twice a day chose to go a different way, it wouldn't be
True.
The pathway wouldn't be so worn.
Well, and that's the hardest part is finding those skills or learning those skills, right?
Mm-hmm. So.
Wow. Well, I love the work that you're doing. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It's really rewarding, for sure. Having a client come to you and say, I didn't know it could be this good is, I feel like I'd never have to work again. And I didn't get that at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
I just had the same people come back month after month with the same problems and didn't seem to be getting any better. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is all the questions that I had for you. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. I think I definitely said just about everything that I've got.
Awesome.
No, there's lots more, but yeah, I really do. I dream of a world where everyone has access to these mental fitness tools so that they can empower themselves and have access to their own inner wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
More people need to stop giving away their power to the experts outside of themselves, and they need to come back to themselves.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Mm-hmm. Well, if people want to reach out to you, ask you more questions or anything like that, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way is going to be through my website, just hollymccorriston.com. I'm on Instagram a lot, which is holly.mccorriston, and it's McCorriston. It's a long name. Thanks, parents. But yeah, that's probably the best way. I'm on Facebook too, but not as much.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. This was so enlightening for me, even. Like, I'm gonna try out your tips and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Good. Well, I'm gonna be starting another group program in May, so I'll keep you posted on the dates.
Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Feel free to reach out at any time. You can contact me on Instagram and Facebook at Stomp the Stigma YYC, and you can email me at stompthestigmayyc@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. And if you or someone you know would like to come on, I would love to have you. Share your story, speak your truth, and together we can stomp the stigma.